Master Sergeant Dylan Bryan, Florida Highway Patrol Public Affairs Office for Troop G, Jacksonville. Shortly after 8 o'clock this morning, we received a BOLO in reference to a reckless driver on I-10. This driver was intercepted by one of our troopers assigned to Baker County, where he attempted to make a traffic stop on that vehicle. That vehicle then decided to flee. After a short pursuit ensued, the driver pulled over and fled from that vehicle on foot into the tree line of I-10 just south of that location. A female passenger was on board of that vehicle, was immediately taken into custody, and was cooperating with our investigators the entire time. With that being said, multiple assets were utilized in order to apprehend this subject. It did take a significant amount of time to take that subject into custody due to the circumstances. Numerous things such as multiple assets that were used, weather played a part of that. But thank you to the cooperation, obviously the assistance of not only the Florida Highway Patrol, their K-9 units, the aviation unit was brought out, our drone unit, but also the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, who brought their K-9 units, patrol, aviation as well, and including their mounted unit. So horses were on site as well, searching the wood line. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission brought officers, Baker County Sheriff's Office brought officers, Jack's Fire Rescue, Department of Corrections brought their K-9 units as well. So as you can see, this was a team effort in reference to bringing this gentleman into custody, and we greatly appreciate their assistance in taking this, obviously this dangerous criminal off the road. The driver was identified as a Brian Keith Sutherland. He has numerous addresses, some out of Alabama as well as Florida. He's a white male, 35 years of age. The passenger was identified as Catherine Jane Cohen. She's a white female, 34 years of age, out of Jacksonville. Further investigation showed, again, with her cooperation with this, we were able to identify the driver even before apprehension. And it was indicated, in addition to the traffic charges that he had initially, he had numerous warrants for his arrest out of other states, which we are in the process of confirming and making sure those are still valid. But again, after several hours or a few hours of working through very dense brush, very dense wood line, the K-9 officers and patrol units, mounted units that were on scene did an outstanding job bringing this subject into custody without further incident.
How was he taken into custody?
The K-9 officers from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office as well as the Florida Highway Patrol actively were tracking the suspect. Again, this was a teamwork effort, so numerous teams were involved. It was kind of a leapfrog, if you will. When one dog is getting to his point, then it's relieved by another. But they did an outstanding job in tracking this subject for obviously a significant amount of time, including the weather delay and the rain that we had at that time. But it was actively apprehended by a JSO K-9 officer. She did a wonderful job apprehending that subject, and of course he was taken into custody by the Florida Highway Patrol shortly after.
How far from the car had he been able to get away on foot?
This gentleman, putting it into a distance, I would say probably just really only a couple of miles, 2.5 miles, if that. But again, the layout of this land, this area, very dense brush, very dense wooded area, and of course the fashion that he was traveling, more so like in a zigzag, if you will, fashion, working back and forth. That's what took a little extra time. But upon locating the suspect, he was hunkered down underneath some palmetto brush, was trying to conceal himself, and that's when the officers identified him, and of course asked him to come out. And again, was taken into custody without further incident.
So this was a case where the officers couldn't see him, but the K-9 could pick up his scent.
That is correct. In essence, he tried to conceal himself. It was very difficult to see, again, because of the type of wooded area that it was. But again, they did an outstanding job, and obviously the K-9 is, very sensitive to those things in nature, and was able to lead the officers directly to him.
I know you guys don't have right now the warrants for his arrest out of other states. Is it other state or states, as in plural states?
I was told multiple states. I do know Alabama is one of them. Again, that he has multiple addresses, but we're trying to confirm exactly what is still in play, what is still active, before we obviously make those charges. But as of right now, we have enough charges here in our local area to bring him into custody and obviously answer to those warrants.
So prior to taking off on foot, or I guess leading them on a chase, taking them off on foot, he was probably just maybe looking at just a speeding ticket, perhaps.
He was driving in a very erratic manner. This gentleman was, we had obviously bolos being brought in. He was called upon by the motoring public, if you will. So it's, again, thank you to the public for that. We can't see and hear everything out on the roadway, so we do depend on the public's assistance with that. But based on that, it, obviously brought our attention to that area where a trooper happened to be stationed and currently awaiting his arrival, if you will. The trooper identified the vehicle, still driving at an erratic speed, well over 100 miles per hour, passing in the shoulders, very erratic,
What kind of
very,
vehicle?
very dangerous criminal that needed to be apprehended and taken off the road.
What kind of vehicle was he?
The vehicle was described as a 2023 Hyundai sport utility vehicle. It's a smaller utility vehicle, or SUV, if you will, and that's what he was operating at the time.
So I'm assuming at this point you guys already have probable cause to search the vehicle. Was any drugs or guns found in the vehicle?
All that's still to be determined. If any other contraband was located in the vehicle, that's obviously been removed from scene. But any of that information that comes up later, I'll certainly advise.
Was he taken to the hospital?
Yes, he was. He was taken to a local hospital to be treated for his injuries. Numerous injuries, obviously minor in nature due to lacerations from, like sticker bushes and vines and so forth. And then, of course, the act of apprehension from the canine.
A couple clarification questions. Can you give us the spelling of the suspect and then also the woman companion, their name?
Yes, the suspect, the driver that is, was identified as Brian, B-R-I-A-N. Middle name Keith, K-E-I-T-H. Last name of Sutherland, S-U-T-H-E-R-L-A-N-D.
How old is he?
He's a 35-year-old white male. And the passenger was identified as Catherine, which is spelled K-A-T-H-R-E-N. Middle name Jane, J-A-N-E. Last name of Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. And she's a 34-year-old white female from Jacksonville.
And then do you know, I know you said multiple addresses from a couple states, but do you know possibly where in Alabama, was that where you said he seems to be?
It was Alabama. I don't have the city right off in the top of my head, but I can certainly provide that information to you. I do know he's not properly licensed in Florida. He has obviously an ID card only here in Florida because at some point in time he resided here. So I'm not sure if he's an active resident of the state at this time, but obviously a close acquaintance. The young lady that he was with was from Jacksonville.
From a
And
law
what type of
enforcement.
training does FHP go through for an instance like this? Because it seems drop of a hat, busy highway, thick wooded area to conduct a manhunt. It seems like a tall task.
It is a tall task. However, that's something that our officers train for day in and day out. To be quite honest with you, the Florida Highway Patrol is utilized for many aspects. A lot of people think we're only a traffic agency. We only deal with tickets. Well, we do so much more than tickets, and this is one of those things. Whether it's civil unrest, manhunts, active shooter response, this is one of the things that our officers train with day in and day out. And fortunately, we train with other agencies that we're working around. So when we all deploy, it's literally one unit. We are one team. And today was an outstanding example of what I meant by that is all of the agencies involved, all the way from the civilian contractors that came out all the way up through fire rescue and of course the law enforcement response. It was literally a cohesive unit. Very, very positive outcome with this, positive example. We'll obviously go back and debrief, see what we can do better, but an outstanding job to be a cohesive unit and obviously to bring this suspect into custody.
From a law enforcement standpoint, when you run the check on this guy and find that he's got multiple felony warrants, not just in one state or two states, but multiple states, from a FHP standpoint, does that raise major red flags with you guys?
Well, it's something that that provides a history of that person, right? So, this person is not a law-abiding citizen. This is not somebody that just made a simple mistake. When they have multiple warrants, especially felonies in nature, they are somebody that is testing the system and quite frankly, disrespecting the justice system as a whole. So, it is our job as the law enforcement authority of that to bring those drivers to justice, or those criminals to justice, and more importantly, get them off the road. That way, they're not interacting with the innocent public. These are the same roads that my families drive, and the same families that your families drive to get from point A to point B. And we certainly don't want these dangerous criminals interacting between the two.
The woman that was taken into custody, is she facing any charges?
She is facing some charges. Those charges have not been released yet, but she has been cooperating. I will say she has been cooperating immediately upon being taken into custody. She did not attempt to flee in any way. Obviously, just being present in the vehicle, she had a lot of valuable information of the demeanor, of the attitude of that driver during that law enforcement encounter.
Is it safe to say that, I don't know if you know, you said you don't know what the charges are, but is it safe to say that the charges have nothing to do with what he did in terms of the chase, but maybe something else?
Well, obviously, being present during something like that, you have the potential of being charged criminally in nature. But again, that's something that our investigators are going to look at, obviously consultation with the state attorney's office as well. And if charges are warranted, we'll issue those accordingly.
Two final questions for me.
Yes, sir.
What did she say was the demeanor of Mr. Sutherland during
The comments in the interview and the information provided from that interview from that female passenger will not be disclosed at this time, as it is part of the investigation. But again, I will say that this young lady was able to provide a lot of valuable information, not only to our officers, but also for broadcast, something that I put out on social media as well that you guys utilize, and appreciate you guys passing out as well. But it also generated calls from some of the public. So, and what I mean by that is we had a civilian driving by the area and thought they had spotted the suspect exiting the tree line, and kind of gave us an opportunity to re-centralize, to kind of relocate if needed, and take that, obviously kind of zero in on that perimeter, which we were in the process of doing already. And of course, ultimately, as you know, about 3 o'clock this afternoon, we took the suspect into custody.
So wait, someone who thought they saw it, did that create a break for you guys?
All information is valuable, whether it's valid or not. So, whether it's not just this case or any other case that we're working, or the, law enforcement partners are working, if the public feels like they have some information, please call it in. If you see something, say something. I know they've heard that catchphrase quite a bit, but it's very important because that could be a piece of the puzzle that kind of brings it to a solution.
I guess what I'm asking is, when the person saw that and they called it in to you guys, did that tip put you guys closer to his location?
I don't know if directly it did, because we were already in the process. We did establish, again, with the teamwork from all the multiple agencies, the perimeter was set. It was a hard perimeter. We were very, very confident that he was within that controlled area that we had. Luckily, all wooded area. We didn't have to worry about any other circumstances such as residences or schools or any of that nature. So we were pretty confident we had a safe area to work. And, as we work in, as our law enforcement training does, we kind of start to squeeze in a little bit and get to a central point of that perimeter, and that's when we brought the suspect into custody.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Was he bitten by the canine?
He was. It was an active apprehension by the canine officer, or the canine partner rather. And again, that's suffered minor injuries due to that deployment, and he's being treated at a local hospital for that.
You said multiple warrants. Were there any warrants that you were able to? You said multiple warrants for the driver. Were there any of those warrants that you were able to confirm as active still for him?
I was trying to do that prior to this interview, but that's information that I'll be able to attain shortly after, and in the process of doing so right now. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.